Oh, straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from...
Hi and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. Right on the show today, can Manchester United manager Erik Ten Hag keep his job and his wits about him? Says he's no Harry Potter, but the club is definitely in desperate need of some magical reversal of fortunes and sorts. What lies ahead for Ten Hag? If Manchester United are facing the Blues over in Formula 1, McLaren is facing the heat for muffing up the race despite having both their drivers on the podium. Is McLaren's favoritism towards Oscar Piastri costing the team? More on that in this show today, and want to know what's got tennis legend Boris Becker and fans at the US Open angry and seething. A women tennis player's on-court behaviour has come under heavy scrutiny. But first, a look at the headlines on Sports 360. Starting with cricket, Bangladesh did a clean sweep over Pakistan in the two-match test series. The Tigers beat Pakistan in the second test by 6 wickets to win the match in Rawalpindi. Lithan Das 138 set the tone for Bangladesh in the first innings. Hassan Mahmood picked up a fifer to restrict Pakistan to 172 in the second innings. Over in football, Uruguayan striker Luis Suarez has announced his retirement from international football. The World Cup qualifier against Paraguay on the 7th of September will be Suarez's last. In 142 appearances, Suarez has scored 69 goals, the most in Uruguay's history. Over in tennis, world number 1 Jannik Sinner has cruised to the US Open quarterfinal. The Italian beat America's Tommy Paul 7-6, 7-6, 6-1 in straight sets. Sinner will now face 5th seed Daniil Medvedev in the quarterfinal. Over in Paralympics, Italy's Valentina Petrillo created history by being the first open transgender athlete at the Games. The visually impaired runner competed in the women's 400 meters race. Petrillo, who previously won 11 men's national titles, transitioned in 2019. She finished second in her heat but did not qualify for the final, clocking 58.35 seconds. And for India at the Paralympics, star javelin thrower Sumit Antal defended his Tokyo Paralympics gold medal by securing gold with a record-breaking throw of 70.59 meters at Paris. Antal broke his own Paralympic record of 69.11 meters, which he set in the very first throw of the final at Paris. Now, it has been over 45 hours since Liverpool beat Manchester United 3-0 at their home turf. But the aftermath of that loss is still ringing loud because criticisms are continuing to pour in against players and the manager, in particular, Erik Ten Hag. No surprises there. The Northwest Derby is one of the biggest fixtures in Premier League. The result of this derby decides how a club's season will pan out. And given United were helpless, they conceded 3 goals and failed to score even one, it's safe to say the club is in shambles. And the script is no different from what happened last year. But before we get to Ten Hag, the more delicious topic, let's address the player under the scanner first, Casemiro. The Brazilian lost the ball twice in the game, which Liverpool eventually capitalised on and scored at Casemiro's expense. The Man United midfielder has come under some fire, some even saying he's finished. The extent of the ire was such that Casemiro's wife had to share a picture of the trophies the Brazilian has earned, just to let critics know what he's achieved. And to add fuel to fire was the statement Jamie Carragher made about Casemiro, saying, "Leave football before it leaves you." But that isn't the case here with the Brazilian. I understand he's having a bad time, but the player isn't entirely at fault here. Casemiro is 32. His legs aren't what they used to be at one time. He cannot play alone in the central defensive midfielder position. Even top players like Modric, Sergio Busquets got support from other players around. But at United, Casemiro isn't getting any of that. Despite that, Casemiro was one of the star performers for United against Fulham in the Premier League opener, which puts question marks over manager Erik Ten Hag once again. It's his job to create a strategy, a plan to let situations like this not happen. The tactics and game plan should come from him. The answer to the Casemiro conundrum lies with Ten Hag. That is why Erik Ten Hag was at the centre of all the anger after the loss against Liverpool.
One of my key guys disappeared to Naples, for Christ's sake.
But despite the trolling and an embarrassing loss against arch-rivals Liverpool, Ten Hag didn't take the blame for the loss, a pattern that only seems more unsurprising now after so long. And a tad irksome for Manchester United fans in particular. The Dutchman was defiant and continued to hold his ground even after this result.
We won after City the most trophies in English football, so I'm sorry for you. It's not like I'm Harry Potter, that is what you have to acknowledge.
We found one person who isn't a Harry Potter fan, but that is an indignant Ten Hag lashing out at the media after this defeat, saying he is no wizard, but maybe there is a desperate need of some miracles here. Also, instead of taking the onus, like the head of a team always does, the manager bragged about winning the most trophies after City in the Premier League, a legacy that Erik Ten Hag has not had a hand in, and one that he has not contributed much to either. Winning trophies is important, but apart from an FA Cup win and the Carabao Cup, United have failed miserably in Premier League under Ten Hag. Given United's stature in English football, a third place and an eighth place finish in back-to-back seasons isn't a resume Ten Hag should be proud of. He's lost 25 matches after taking over in 2022, 2 years, and a win percentage of just over 50. That isn't something United have shown historically. Just to give you a context, well, since 2022, Manchester City have lost just 8 matches. Arsenal only 11, compared to United's 25. That's the stark difference between United and other top sides in the Premier League. So instead of taking the ownership or working on the plans, Ten Hag chose to boast about the trophies. Not he alone, United have won. Boasting about a legacy that you have inherited just won't do. In fact, if it wasn't for last year's FA Cup win, Erik Ten Hag's exit was confirmed. The owners were planning to get rid of the Dutchman. But as soon as he won the FA Cup, the management suddenly saw potential in Ten Hag.
Erik has our full backing, and we have worked very closely together in this transfer window. We're going to continue working very closely with him to help him get the best results of the team.
Maybe that's the reason why Ten Hag was so bold even after losing to Liverpool. He has the backing of the top management. But how long will that last? Now, we've seen in the past a club like United demand victories, something they have failed to do in the last 1 decade. The club is hungry for Premier League, Champions League, some European success. Because a few trophies do not define success at a club like United. It's the Premier League position that really matters, something former manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said during his stint.
It's not like a trophy will say that we're back. No. It's the gradual progression of being in and around the top of the league and the consistency and the odd trophies. Sometimes a cup competition can hide the fact you're still struggling a little bit.
But Erik Ten Hag right now will need some more Wingardium Leviosa about now. For the uninitiated, it's a chant to levitate. We're talking Harry Potter here, and the club is in major need of some levitation. From the slumber they find themselves in, if Ten Hag fails to execute something this year as well, the exit doors would swing open, and then, of course, no magic wand, not even Dumbledore's Elder Wand, can save Erik Ten Hag. Over in the past 3 Formula One seasons, one thing that has remained a constant is the dominance of Red Bull and Max Verstappen. The Dutch driver was crowned champion all 3 times, to the extent of all of us at the end of last year asking where exactly is the competition? Is there anyone who can challenge the raging bull? So refreshingly, this season has turned out to be slightly different. Max Verstappen may still be leading the standings, but he's facing a lot of heat, and there are drivers snapping at his heels. The situation isn't as comfortable anymore for the reigning champion. Verstappen now is not the only driver gunning for the title. He faces tough competition. Despite Verstappen winning 7 races this year, the Red Bull driver is leading by a narrow margin. In the 16 races so far, Verstappen has managed to score 303 points. The biggest competitor has been McLaren's Lando Norris with 241 points. Charles Leclerc also not too far behind with 217. But here's the thing. Lando Norris had the chance to close that gap by some margin over the weekend in Italy, and they blew it. A chance that went begging, and this was not the first time. Let's talk about what happened at the Italian Grand Prix first. Both McLaren drivers, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, bagged podium finishes. But the result could have been different. And with that, Verstappen's hold on the top spot too. Instead of Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, maybe Lando Norris could have finished first. Anything on that podium but third. All only if Oscar Piastri hadn't overtaken Lando Norris. That overtake, however masterful and skillful it was, proved very costly for Norris and, more importantly, McLaren. Ferrari made the most of it. Watching the two drivers of one team competing with each other was enough for Leclerc to focus on the job ahead and get it done and finish first. The frustration and anger spilled out after the race as fans questioned McLaren's bizarre approach. Everyone wants to win, I get it, but the team comes first. There was to be an order in place. Usually the team sets the order where they do not allow their own drivers to overtake each other. They instruct one to go ahead or one to pass. They assess and determine what result would be best for the team, especially when victory is in sight. Two drivers in the best positions at the Italian Grand Prix when Verstappen was out of podium in the 6th position. It was a clear chance for Norris to win the thing. And most importantly, close that gap by some margin. Had Piastri not overtaken him, and had Norris finished first, he would have gotten 10 extra points. Crucial that in bridging the gap between him and Verstappen, leaving experts, journalists and those who have followed the sport for decades puzzled and quite angry.
How are you not prioritizing the guy who's going to make most out of this? How do you not even swap them on the last lap just to get a couple more points? Because you're not talking about giving away a victory at this point. It's a second place.
What Will Buxton, a journalist covering Formula One, was at the racetracks as well, is saying is that how can you let an opportunity like that go by? For the first time in 3 years, you have a chance, a slender chance, but a chance nevertheless, of getting closer to dethroning Verstappen from that top spot. How could the strategy not be thought through? McLaren's favoritism has cost them and Norris dearly, and it isn't just this race. At the Hungarian Grand Prix over a month ago, it was Lando Norris who was leading the grid, but McLaren asked Norris to step back and allow Piastri to overtake. It saw Piastri win the Hungarian Grand Prix, so where is the vision in McLaren? Why favour Piastri here when Norris is the one who should be given every possible opportunity to get ahead? He's the only one who can get by Max, and by that extension, kill the dominance of Red Bull. Why isn't McLaren seeing the bigger picture? After the backlash, of course, McLaren broke its silence on the subject.
It looks a little brutal if you ask a driver who is going to win a race. He gained on track that you have to swap positions, but we will review all these things for the next races. If we come to the conclusion together that swapping is the right thing to do, then we will do it.
It's great to be emotional and supportive of one's dreams. But I go back to what I said at the start. The goal is to win, for the team to win, for the driver to fuel the team to win. I understand maintaining competition within the side, it's a noble thought. But that isn't helping McLaren at the end of the day, because it's not Piastri who is close to overtaking Verstappen in the standings. That man is Norris. He's the only one with the one real chance. True to his character, this is what Norris said after the race when asked about McLaren's odd command.
It's not up to me. I think as any driver you don't want things to play that way. I wouldn't say we're running out of time, but time is going away slowly. It's not for me to decide.
Time is running away slowly is what he says, but given the current situation, he isn't getting the backing he deserves. In the past two, we've seen McLaren prefer one driver over the other. In 2007, they favoured Lewis Hamilton to teammate Fernando Alonso, which led to a huge fallout between the two. And that year, in fact, both Hamilton and Alonso finished on equal points. So McLaren clearly not rethinking their strategies enough. Here's what I think. Favoritism is fine when your own team gets the benefit of it. It's good as long as it plays into the larger good, which is the team winning. But in the Norris-Piastri case, favoritism is rather pointless here. This will not just dampen Norris's chance for a title, but also ruin McLaren's hopes of dethroning Verstappen and Red Bull, a move that may not sit too well. The US Open has been quite the ride. Top seeds and star attractions have crashed out. There's no Alcaraz, no Djokovic in the men's draw, no Coco Gauff, and no Naomi Osaka in the women's. The remaining tennis stars are frustrated with the timings of the matches and lack of sleep. Umpires have come under the spotlight for blatant errors. Flushing Meadows is flushed with anything but tennis skills or the game. And you have to add this to it. In fact, the latest incident tops the list. Kazakhstan's tennis player Yulia Putintseva is the latest to create a storm at the US Open. She was up against Italian sensation Yasmin Paolini, the finalist at Wimbledon this year. Obviously, things weren't going all too well for the Kazakh player. She was being outwitted by her Italian opponent, and losing can be frustrating. It isn't easy to smooth over. Only the best know how to deal with the mental makeup, especially when things are not going your way. Sometimes even the top players in the world aren't able to do so. You witnessed Carlos Alcaraz do that, slam his racket multiple times to completely ruin it right in the middle of a match. An ATP Masters, nevertheless, one that he was winning only to go on to lose. Now, I understand frustration. It's human to feel angry when you are losing. But it's not humane to respond to that situation like this. Kudos to the ball girl to stand her ground and not wither away, even as Putintseva continued her glassy, cold, unmoving stare and that body language that could shake anyone. She indicated to the ball girl to throw her the ball and proceeds to not even touch it. Does that repeatedly till the ball girl has none left. Angrily, then takes the last one and walks off indignantly. The crowd is angry, they booed her off, and of course Putintseva does nothing to show remorse, definitely not through the game, which she proceeds to lose in straight sets. Fans and legends like Boris Becker, for one, erupted on the internet, giving it off to the Kazakh player, saying there was no room for this behaviour towards someone who was helping you. These ball boys and ball girls play tennis, some of them do. Some probably just volunteer to get up close to the tennis stars they only get to watch on TV otherwise. Some of these dream of becoming one themselves, tennis stars. Many of them of today, of course, someone like Roger Federer for one, have been ball boys and ball girls in the past. They come to these hallowed turfs of Grand Slam events to get inspired, to be overawed, to get in on a piece of history and learn. Not to be mocked, taunted or attacked. It isn't just Putintseva. Djokovic has been guilty of being rude to a ball girl. So too Leighton Hewitt, who apologized later when clarity dawned. And it did for Putintseva too, who issued a social media apology for the world to see later. But yes, the damage was done. There are moments that you want to see and say that you should never be that, like what Putintseva displayed. And then there are moments like these that are on your screen. Rafael Nadal running up to apologize to a ball girl for accidentally hitting her. Goran Ivanisevic giving his racket to a ball girl to play, all in good humor, giving them something they will cherish and want to remember. Not one that will make them never want to be on a tennis court again. Time for last serve. Now, Paris may be hosting the Paralympics, but over in another part of France, over in Dunkirk, there is a different sport that's mesmerized crowds there. The Freestyle Kite World Cup season opener. So athletes perform tricks while kite surfing. Take a look. That wraps up Firstpost here today. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time. Till then, do take care. Bye-bye.
Hello and welcome to Fast and Factual on